Welcome back to the Classified History, where we expose the secrets the history books tried to bury under a mountain of boring paragraphs. Today, we're diving into the Cold War, and let me tell you, calling it cold is like calling a nuclear bomb a tiny bit warm. It was the one conflict where the two main players never actually shot at each other directly, which, for history standards, is pretty weird. Instead, they had a decades-long shouting match, a super tense staring contest, and a secret global game of who can build the bigger, more terrifying stack of doomsday weapons. Spoiler alert, it was both of them. Now, before we get to the spying, the space race, and the glorious paranoia, we need to rewind a bit. We need to go back to when World War II ended, and two old pals, the United States and the Soviet Union, decided they absolutely hated each other's guts. It's like when you finish a group project with someone and realize their approach to sharing the work was radically different from yours. Except, in this case, the group project was saving the world, and the difference in approach was communism versus capitalism, and they both had nukes. Fun times. The real secret behind the Cold War, it wasn't just ideology. It was a series of classified promises broken almost immediately after the confetti from V-Day settled. The broken promise, at Yalta and Potsdam, they promised free and fair elections for Eastern Europe. Stalin, however, had a different definition of free and fair, which mostly involved installing regimes that loved the Soviet Union a lot. Churchill called it the Iron Curtain, which sounds like a nice theatrical term, but it was actually a terrifying, heavily guarded geopolitical border that separated two fundamentally opposed worlds. The atomic secret, the biggest, shiniest secret the US held, was the atomic bomb. When President Truman casually mentioned it to Stalin at Potsdam, Stalin simply shrugged. Oh, that. Neat. Why the calm reaction? Because the USSR already had spies who had classified the hell out of the Manhattan Project and told him everything. The arms race wasn't a slow jog, it was a full-out sprint from day one, fueled by stolen classified blueprints. The new doctrine, this atmosphere of total mistrust, birthed the Truman Doctrine, essentially drawing a line in the sand. We will fund anyone fighting communism. The Soviets countered with the Cominform, essentially saying, we will fund anyone fighting capitalism. Translation, global sponsorship for proxy wars was now open. No place summarized this classified division better than Berlin. Imagine sharing a tiny apartment with someone you despise, but that apartment is located inside their bigger, scarier house. That was West Berlin. The classified blockade. Stalin saw this capitalist thorn in his side and thought, time for some casual starvation? In 1948, the Soviets suddenly blocked all road, rail, and canal access to West Berlin. This was a classic classified Soviet tactic. Use economic pressure to force the Allies out. The goal was to take West Berlin without firing a single shot. Smooth? The unexpected answer. Did the Allies panic? A little, but then they thought, wait, planes exist. And thus began the Berlin Airlift, or as I like to call it, the world's most aggressive delivery service. For almost a year, Allied planes flew in everything coal, food, and even candy, ignoring Stalin's blockade. It was a logistical miracle, a massive public relations win, and a classified humiliation for the Soviets, who had to awkwardly watch the West successfully feeding their people right over their heads. They finally lifted the blockade, realizing that starving people just makes them really, really mad. In 1949, the West formed NATO North Atlantic Treaty Organization. An attack on one is an attack on all. It was essentially a heavily armed, legally binding friendship pact. The key message, touch one of us, and we all show up with atomic bombs. The ultimate deterrent. The Soviets, never wanting to be left out of a terrifying club, waited a bit and formed the Warsaw Pact in 1955. Their message was simpler. If one of our countries tries to leave our club, we invade them. And then we all fight NATO. It's fun for the whole family. So, by the mid-50s, the battle lines were officially drawn. Two massive armed tooth-to-tooth alliances, separated by a thin, nervous line in Germany. It was the perfect stage for the most elaborate, insane, and classified psychological warfare the world had ever seen. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we hit pause on part 1 of the Cold War. We have two frenemies, both armed with the power to vaporize the planet. Both convinced the other guy is literally Satan, and both constantly trying to steal each other's classified socks. Next time on the Classified History, we'll dive into the spy scandals, the space race, the construction of the biggest oopsie in history, the Berlin Wall, and why exactly Cuba suddenly became very, very important. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss the next chapter of this hilarious global neuroapocalypse. Otherwise, a Soviet agent might accidentally deliver a miniature nuclear briefcase to your mailbox. You never know. See you next time. Welcome back to the Classified History, where we dig up the secrets the history books tried to bury under a mountain of mind-numbingly dull footnotes. If the Cold War were a movie, the most exciting part would definitely be the spy showdown. Think about it. Two superpowers suspecting each other of literally everything, from who had the biggest missiles to who made the best ice cream. And to handle this colossal mess of paranoia, they sent in their best people, wearing trench coats and sunglasses, with one primary directive: don't get caught. We're diving deep into the classified world of the CIA Central Intelligence Agency and the KGB Committee for State Security. This was a war without bullets, just epic double-crosses, goofy spy gadgets, and double agents who forced history to be rewritten. Who truly won this secret war? Let's find out. But first, a small warning. Don't trust anything you see, including this narrator. Our first battlefield is Berlin, the spy capital of the world, where paranoia was so high you checked under your pillow every night. But in 1955, the CIA and MI6 British intelligence cooked up an incredibly ambitious plan, innocently named Operation Gold. The classified idea? Dig a massive 450-meter tunnel from West Berlin right into the main Soviet military communication cables in East Berlin. They were essentially plugging a giant wiretap directly into the Soviets' phone lines. It sounds like a cartoon plot, but it was 100% real. The oversimplified challenge. The digging faced hilarious real-world problems: groundwater, rats, and the risk of collapse from subway vibrations. To hide the operation, they built a fake radar station above ground. Oh, we're just building a radar site. Definitely not digging a giant hole 15 feet beneath your feet. Nothing to see here. The classified betrayal, Operation Gold, was surprisingly successful, running for 11 months and yielding thousands of intelligence intercepts. But here's the bitter classified truth. The KGB knew about the tunnel the entire time. A British double agent named George Blake had spilled the beans right after the plan was approved. So why the silence? Because they wanted to feed the US misinformation and protect Blake, their ultimate goldmine. That's the KGB way, deadly serious and super sneaky. If digging tunnels was old school, aerial reconnaissance was high-tech. Meet the U-2 Dragon, Lady America's spy plane that could fly so high, no Soviet missile could touch it. It was the CIA's classified pride, invincible. The Mayday incident, on May 1, 1960, U-2 pilot Francis Gary Powers was cruising over Soviet airspace when he was shot down after a few comical close calls. This crash was a massive classified PR disaster for the US, who initially claimed Powers was just a weather pilot who got lost. The KGB's PR masterpiece, Khrushchev played the moment perfectly. He held a press conference, chuckling as he revealed not only the wreckage but the crucial part. Pilot Powers was alive. America's weather balloon story instantly became an international joke. The cost: a major peace summit was canceled, US-Soviet relations froze, and Powers got 10 years in prison for espionage. The classified lesson: in the Cold War, getting caught was worse than dying. Powers was eventually exchanged for another Soviet spy. It was a diplomatic win for the Soviets and a humorous reminder: never underestimate the Soviets' ability to shoot things down. The biggest classified secrets weren't in the documents. They were inside people's heads. This is the story of the double agents who changed the course of the war without firing a single shot. Kim Philby, the Cambridge Five, the classic case. Philby was a high-ranking British intelligence officer, MI6, who had secretly worked for the Soviets since the 1930s. He was a double agent right in the enemy's inner circle. Philby not only revealed classified US and British plans to the KGB, but was also responsible for the capture and death of countless Western agents. He lived a double life, having afternoon tea with MI6 officials while sending top-secret documents to Moscow. Oh dear, our spy got caught in Moscow. Must have been clumsy. Shame. Aldrich Ames, a CIA counterintelligence officer who, desperate for cash due to a ridiculous shopping habit, sold the entire US intelligence network in the Soviet Union to the KGB for about $4.6 million in cash. The classified fallout? Dozens of critical US assets were executed. Ames, meanwhile, was living an unbelievably lavish life in Washington. His colleagues wondered, how did he afford that new Jaguar on a CIA salary? Must be a really good investor. The classified truth? Double agents weren't just traitors. They were proof that trust was the most expensive and dangerous commodity in the Cold War. Both sides were crippled by the people they trusted the most. The amusing irony is that the total paranoia they felt was, in fact, completely justified. The classified war of the spies may be over, but its legacy lives on. The goofy gadgets? The CIA and KGB created espionage gear so ridiculous, it's legendary. Shoe heel microphones, KGB, camera hidden in a cigarette pack. Or the infamous acoustic kitty, CIA's attempt to put a listening device inside a real cat. Imagine training a cat to be a spy. What a classified waste of talent. The hotline. One big phone call after the Cuban Missile Crisis. Both sides realized they needed a faster classified way to communicate than writing letters. Enter the hotline. Though called the Red Phone, it was actually a teletype and ancient fax machine. It was state-of-the-art at the time, but essentially just a way for two giants to send faster, angrier text messages. The comical conclusion. So, who won the spy war? Perhaps paranoia did. This conflict taught us that even with the most sophisticated classified plans, one double agent, one feline spy, or one shot-down plane could ruin everything. And that's all the classified dirt we can reveal for today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. If you don't, the KGB might assume you are a double agent hiding the truth about this video. See you next time, and always remember, check under your couch for hidden listening devices. Welcome back to the Classified History, where we look at the moments when the world almost accidentally pressed the big, shiny red button. The Cold War was built on a terrifying idea, mutual assured destruction, or MAD for short. It's like having a sibling where the only way to ensure they don't hit you is to hold a massive baseball bat at all times. If they swing, you swing. Perfectly logical, right? But what happens when the baseball bat slips? For 40 years, the world lived just minutes away from total annihilation. Not because of some grand political malice, but because of faulty technology, bad communication, and, believe it or not, one very confused flock of geese. Today, we're opening the most terrifying classified files, the moments we almost ended humanity, and the ridiculously thin threads of luck that saved us. Prepare for a serious dose of anxiety. In October 1962, the entire world held its breath over the Cuban Missile Crisis. We all know the high-level talks, the tense presidential speeches, and the famous hotline that was, surprisingly, just a glorified teletype machine. That's all very public history, but the real, classified terror happened deep underwater, far from the cameras. Meet the Soviet submarine B-59. It was armed with a nuclear torpedo and found itself trapped near Cuba, completely surrounded by aggressive U.S. destroyers. These ships were dropping small-depth charges non-lethal, but incredibly loud and nerve-wracking. Inside the sub, the crew was running dangerously low on air. The temperature was soaring, and they were completely cut off from Moscow. The captain, convinced that World War III had already started on the surface, made a chilling decision to fire their nuclear torpedo. Now, under Soviet procedure, firing that world-ending weapon required the unanimous agreement of 3 key officers. The captain gave his approval. The political officer agreed. It seemed the world's fate was sealed. But the third in command, a man named Vasily Arkhipov, who, thankfully, was a rational human being, he stood his ground, argued against the launch, and ultimately persuaded the others to surface the sub instead. Just think about that. One guy, sweating profusely in a cramped, suffocating metal tube, single-handedly saved the world from nuclear winter. The lesson here? Always have that one sensible friend in the room when you're making potentially world-ending decisions. This was arguably the most classified, least-known act of individual heroism in human history. Fast forward to the 1970s. The decade brought us disco, questionable fashion choices, and perhaps the stupidest accidental near-miss of all time. On November 9, 1979, the alarms at NORAD, that's the North American Aerospace Defense Command, blared to life. The screens flashed a horrifying message. A full-scale Soviet missile attack was incoming. Multiple intercontinental ballistic missiles were supposedly on their way to the United States. It was absolute chaos. Fighter jets scrambled into the air. Command centers went into lockdown. The U.S. National Security Advisor, Zbigniew Brzezinski, was immediately notified. He was literally moments away from waking the president to confirm a counterstrike which, would effectively end civilization as we know it. He paused, just for a moment, to see if the attack was real. After several minutes of stomach-churning panic, NORAD figured it out. The whole thing was a colossal, and in hindsight, hilarious mistake. And the cause? A malfunctioning microchip. Specifically, a 46-cent test chip used to run wargame simulations had somehow been plugged into the live, operational system. The super-advanced, billion-dollar computer thought the practice drill was a real attack. Brzezinski later said that he didn't wake his wife immediately because, if the world was ending, he wanted her to enjoy her last few minutes of life in peace. Imagine trying to explain that to your spouse. Honey, I know we're all about to be vaporized because of a cheap piece of plastic, but did you at least enjoy that last cup of coffee? Now let us jump across the Iron Curtain to the USSR in 1983. Paranoia was at an all-time high. The US had just run its aggressive Able Archer military exercises, and the air was thick with mistrust and suspicion. On the night of September 26, 1983, Soviet early warning satellites reported an impossible scenario. 5 American ICBMs had been launched and were heading straight for the Soviet Union. The computer screens inside the Serpukov 15 command bunker turned bright red. All the flashing lights, all the alarms, All the classified training manuals pointed to one clear action: retaliate immediately. The duty officer that night was Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov. His job was simple: confirm the computer S warning and escalate the launch sequence to the Soviet High Command. But Petrov used something the computer didn't have: a human brain. He thought to himself, why only 5 missiles? If the US were truly launching a surprise first strike, they would send hundreds, if not thousands, to guarantee victory. He made a gut-wrenching call and declared the computers reading a false alarm. He faced enormous pressure and broke every single protocol, betting his career and the fate of the entire planet on a hunch. It turned out he was right. A rare alignment of sunlight on high-altitude clouds had tricked the satellite system. He was later reprimanded for improper documentation, but his classified decision saved the world from an unnecessary nuclear war. He truly deserved a medal, but instead he got an internal scolding because, Soviet bureaucracy. These are just the 3 most famous classified near misses, but there are dozens more that we know of. Flocks of migrating geese mistaken for a bomber fleet, faulty radar units in Greenland, and even a rogue computer tape that almost sent the Strategic Air Command on a one-way trip in 1960. The classified truth is that the Cold War was unteached a political struggle. It was a decades-long struggle against entropy, human error, and sheer dumb luck. The world was saved time and time again, not by flawless machines, but by one single person deciding to ignore the flashing classified signs and listen to their gut. The legacy of these near misses isn't just terror, it's a powerful testament to the fact that humans are, surprisingly, better at de-escalation than the massive, expensive, paranoid machines they built to protect themselves. And that's where we declassify our files for today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Otherwise, that rogue microchip that almost triggered World War III might think you re-ignoring it and launch a very small, harmless, but extremely annoying missile directly at your house. You've been warned. See you next time on The Classified History.